What's up, everyone? I'm Tamara, and welcome to Tam's Psych Advice. So today, we're going to explore the ENFJ's inner world or inner turmoil. We're just going to go through and we're going to explore it. Can an ENFJ look cool, calm, and collect on the outside while their heads are going haywire on the inside? Whether they are inwardly raging or suffering deep sorrow, what they experience inside can be brutal, turbulent, and confusing. Contrary to what others believe, ENFJs are complex, complicated people. They're wired intricately. They're not surface level thinkers who are chipper all the time. Although they are extroverted social beings, their inner workings is furnished with ornate introverted pieces. You can blame their interior decorations on that. Their introverted intuition feels like a secret they're holding that can be exhilaratingly fun or harrowingly distressful. At times, extroverted feeling, which they present to the world, can energize them and also draw people in with how easily they connect to people. The empathy they feel helps them respond well to others, and their intuition connects information as it processes the emotions they are receiving. They have powerful instincts that are like radars. It's like a dim light that rises brightly and shows what's happening inside someone. It's like their inner mind connects with your inner mind like a wireless computer. So if ENFJs understand people to the level that they do, how can they feel so triggered or tripped up by their own inner world? Because their outward emotions is taken in inwardly by their internal intuition, and it takes them into deep, dark places where their curious mind starts to extricate deeper meanings and begins to uncover why they're being impacted negatively by something that is happening. Their NF combo makes them susceptible to shifts in emotions of those around them that can alter their own mood. So subtle are cues that they pick up on that the smallest things can make them feel strong emotions. ENFJs have introverted thinking as their least function. However, it helps them process information in a logical manner and helps them know where certain thoughts come from and the details surrounding it. Although feeling is at the forefront and thinking is at the back, their thinking function can be that nagging thing that pokes them on the shoulder, that causes them to flip thoughts inside and out to figure out their emotional state. Because of TI, introverted thinking, although they get a gut feeling, the intricacies of what goes behind the emotion is lost. They may not have the patience to deal with details and skip around them, getting lost in the vastness of the whole picture. This could be why ENFJ can feel depressed. Weaker TI can cause big negative emotional responses, but it may be hard to get rid of these thoughts because they're out of their realm of awareness. It's a circle effect that's quite elusive to the ENFJ. They try to grab onto the emotion and figure it out, but they can't quite hang on to it. Their emotional responses are intense and heartfelt, which is the thing that helps them to be empathetic. I know how to sharpen a pencil. I know how to take a stack of papers and stack them up. I know how to alphabetize something. I know how to turn my computer on and turn on certain things like Microsoft Word and make those things work. But what happens with an ENFJ is we can often get into these dilemmas that are more based on morals and ethics. And honestly, I'm in a situation like that right now, and this comes up over and over and over. It's kind of like if you decorate a room, you might be confused about, okay, what do I like? What don't I like? There's so many possibilities that come into play. It's that intuitive thing, whereas it seems like a sensor just kind of is like, I don't like red, I don't like black, I don't like yellow. I love blue. We're going to go with an all blue theme. ENFJs, sometimes they don't think that way. Like they struggle to think simply, and they're often grappling with morals and ethics. Have you ever taken an ethic class? I recommend that you do, or you don't have to, but when you're taking an ethics class, you're trying to figure out what are the ethics of a situation, not write an A, then B, then C, then D. There's something ambiguous there, and that is taxing and super confusing to an ENFJ, because it's like that J wants to make a decision, but because they're trying to use logic, they're trying to be a thinker and make a logical decision, logic can sometimes defy them in a sense, because sometimes they can be extremely analytical. Throw in a people, that just throws it off even further, because what I do can impact others. Something can make sense in one way and not make sense at all in another way. So what do you do? How do you handle it? They find themselves in these ethical, moral decisions over and over and over again. And yeah, the two thoughts just clash. Do you go with feelings? Do you go with objectivity? If you are objective, how is it going to hurt someone else? And are you doing the correct thing? Sometimes you can be dealing with something like what I'm dealing with now, where something seems absolutely logical, but then I think about God, and what does God want me to do though? Like, the way he thinks isn't the way I think. So if I make a certain decision, even though I feel like I'm not sinning, how is he going to look at what I'm doing, and how am I certain of what it is that he's telling me? Is some of that my own way of thinking, my own guilty conscience? Am I overthinking? Am I overworking my guilt and letting that rule and run everything? Is there a way that I can put the guilt aside and not worry about it? And why am I worried about it? So you get very tangled up in things. Not only that, but sometimes we're triggered by people, or we can get our feelings really hurt, male or female. It doesn't matter. Sometimes the smallest thing, somebody can even, I had a friend once to say, sometimes somebody is mad at you and you have no idea why, and you have no idea that they are mad at you or that you did anything wrong. So you have to kind of keep in mind that people are people, and sometimes they do and say things, and they're not trying to be difficult. They're just talking and they've moved on from it, or they're speaking their truth and it's not personal. But we can hang on to like, why they walk away like that? Why were they looking at me like that? Why were they looking at that person that way? That's not what they normally do or how they react to things. So we for some reason, ENFJs get mired in this type of deep thought, and sometimes that deep thought can bring you to new places and understanding, and it can even be so much fun. And then there are other times when it's just awful and exhausting. Receivers are more likely to work through what is around them, what is in the environment, what is happening. Let's work through this, or let's wait. I have a sensor friend who always waits to see what she's craving at the end of the day before she goes grocery shopping. And me as a J, J's want to close the deal. They want to make a decision. So they're not working through necessarily all the facts. It's like, I got to get to that decision. So I'm going to buy my groceries ahead of time. And if I'm not craving that at the time, well, that's too bad. The point I'm trying to make here is that judging preference is the thing that creates a problem as well, because of the need to make a decision. And maybe they're not as good always at relaxing into the thoughts that can help you draw a new conclusion. They're not as comfortable with it, even though sometimes it could be like doing mental gymnastics. You like it and other times you don't. We know that people can be the trigger to that emotional dive into dark places. Emotions can be, ethics can be, our own actions or decisions. Was it right? Was it wrong? That can trip us up also. Hurt feelings, not getting what we wanted out of life. Any little thing can trip us into that deep, dark space. And as long as you have a quiet space, then those thoughts are going to take over. Sometimes the moral dilemmas that we're going through as ENFJs may not make any sense to other people because they simplify things in a different way. But for example, the situation I was telling you guys about earlier, it's like, what would God have me to do? I'm accepting a gift from a narcissistic person who's done a lot of hurt and damage to people. Does that mean that I'm giving in to that side? Like I'm in agreement with that person by accepting the gift. Now, I would never just give it back, but do I use the gift or do I put it aside? And as silly as that may seem, it's something I'm grappling with. But then I think, okay, the Bible says to forgive those who hurt you. So is this person trying to make amends for some of the things that they've done? They said they were. I don't know if it's a manipulation tactic, and by accepting it, does it put me in a position that, okay, now I have to accept garbage, go against what I believe, because you're sort of this person buying acceptance, or do they mean it from the heart? And does it matter? Silly as that sounds, we can get into scenarios like that all the time. Sometimes situations with other people can be so overpowering in emotions that it makes you feel horrible, like it triggers anxiety. And so I'm in another situation where there's something that I know about a person, and if I were to have a conversation about a certain situation with the person, what would happen? And my thought process is it would create a much worse situation. And so it's better to kind of keep the person at bay, like let's not even get into that and start digging up all the stuff and the junk, because if you do, you're going to open up something that doesn't exist right now. So even though there's a little bit of tension, there's a little bit of stress, really going with that tension and stress versus opening up Pandora's box. That's what I'm doing now. But it also creates a scenario of running and avoiding and just staying away from, because I just don't want to trigger it. But then it drives my J crazy because I need closure. Like I want to move on from this, and I can't move on from it because the situation exists. Eventually it won't. And so I'm just kind of buying some time by avoiding, if that makes sense. So what can you do if you are ruminating and you're having all of these emotions and it's driving you nuts? One thing you can do is aim for regulation, not repression, because intense emotions aren't all bad. Now, I'm going to argue with that statement a little bit, because ENFJs experience emotions so strongly. I think sometimes suppressing is okay, because as long as those emotions are open, you're going to be constantly tangling with them and they're going to drive you nuts. So it is okay if you can change the channel sometimes, distract, do something else, get your mind in a different place, do something fun, color, draw, exercise, do something physical to get you out of that mode, because ENFJs are already very emotionally aware. There are some types that are not as in contact with their emotions, and they will repress them, and they need to deal with them and regulate them. ENFJs are constantly dealing with emotions. So sometimes we actually need to turn them off, and that's okay. And you probably can keep a journal. Sometimes you just have to write down your thoughts. If you don't like writing, then you can use a voice memo and speak about them. Although ENFJs can exude confidence and they do feel really good about their decision making and making things happen, there are areas that we are great in, but certain experiences can start to chip away at your self-esteem. And also ENFJs rediscover themselves over and over and over again. And it's good for you in the sense that you will always grow. You'll never be stagnant. Everything is how it is. It's like, no, now I'm going to question something new and I'm going to rediscover and I'm going to be better for it. But you also need to check your self-esteem and just make sure that you are feeling good about yourself. What are 3 things about you that you like, that you feel are working for you? So you kind of need a plan of action sometimes, and to actually take action. This is what I'm going to do. It might not be the right decision, the perfect decision, but I'm going to take a stance that this is how I'm going to handle this for now. And you can always change your mind. And then, of course, ENFJs are always trying to understand their triggers, but really take a minute, if you need to make a diagram, really take a second to try to understand those triggers, what's driving it, where is it coming from, and can you put it to rest? Distraction. Sometimes you have to distract. Also, self-care is crucial. Simply making a pros and cons list is a great way to shut down overactive thoughts, because it gives you something to look at and examine instead of letting the thoughts just take over and do whatever they want. You're controlling them. Ask yourself questions like, how well am I taking care of myself right now? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I overdoing it in some area? Am I creating anxiety within myself because I'm not bringing in enough enjoyment into my life? What's something new that I can explore? How can I make sure that I'm resting, that I'm eating healthy, that I'm connecting with safe people who make me feel good about myself, where I don't have to struggle? Is there something that I can do hobby-wise that is pleasurable? Sometimes we're not pouring enough positives into ourselves, and then the negatives can easily take over. So we also have to accept the fact that sometimes we're gonna ruminate. That's just part of who we are, but we can actively practice turning some of that off. So if anybody else has any suggestions or things that you do, please let us know in the comments. I've also done lots of ENFJ videos. I have 3 playlists. I'll put at least 1 in the description box so you can check those out and understand ENFJs better. And I've also written a book, 2 books. One is Flip the Script on Love, and the other one is The Workplace of Narcissists. Both of these are written from an ENFJ perspective, and it will give you insight into difficult people, but then also the most pleasurable part of life, and that is love. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you, my wonderful friends, on the next video. Bye.